I think the more I'm doing this, the more I'm growing into it, the more I like it. It's in a way fantastic, no? To be able to share what I have learned to whoever is interested, independent of whether they have money or where they are. I see people from many different places around the world. So I think this is great, and the more I do it, the more I feel I have no choice. I've run out of excuses not to do it and not to use this modern internet to share the knowledge that can really help to make your life more happy, more peaceful, and even can make this world a better place. So, anyhow, thank you for all being here. And thank you also those who are not here, but who will probably watch this video afterwards. Thank you to be here. Thank you to want to learn how to meditate. And let me just see if there's any questions about last session. No. So then the question for this session, of course, they come at the end. Last time we started with some basics of relaxation, especially on the body level and on the posture, on the sitting. So if you didn't see that, please check it one day so that you can sit comfortably and relaxed in your body before you start to meditate and before you start the breathing exercises we're going to talk about today. And even last week, we also already talked about breath and we're using breath to help relax the body. So I feel that part of pranayama, of breathing exercises, is already covered. We don't need to go into that again. And whether we use the breath in the corpse pose, shavasana, whether we use it in the meditative pose, it does not matter. Always we use the breath to energize the tension so that it is loosened from a specific part of the body. And then upon the exhale, guide this tension into the earth so that we can be free of it. So all that came last week, and this week we're going to look more into what can be done with breath. Breath is exceptionally essential to the whole meditation process. The impact of breath on our calmness is even something which is known in Western society. And we have expressions like, take a breath or something. We know that slowing down the breath makes us more calm. And since meditation is all about generating calmness inside of us, breath is a natural tool which should never be forgotten, which is always somehow or other involved in whatever you are doing. And there are some meditation traditions which focus exclusively on breath, and that is definitely also possible, even though breath is still something which we do with the body. And in deeper meditation, we want to get out of the body consciousness and inside. But even there, to use the breath as the object of our meditation, it is possible that what starts as a physical ingoing, outgoing breath becomes one breath without any more difference perceived between ingoing and outgoing, and even becomes the essence of breath, which is the life force, the prana, which then can really become a mental object with which we can meditate, on which we can concentrate, and which even in the more abstract awareness of deep meditation can exist there, can be observed there, can be sensed there, and can bring us there to where we want to go. So definitely breath is a great tool, but in most cases, in most traditions, it is part of a whole set of tools, and there it is then mostly used to further relax the body, the mind, the senses, the nervous system, but also the more subtle energy systems of the nadis, the chakras. So there it usually comes before the phase of concentration, but even certainly in the beginning of the phase of concentration, breath is often used to hold the attention, maybe in combination with a mantra or something else. So these hang-ons that we sometimes need to really be able to concentrate inside, to stick with the mantra without thinking, their breath is one of the most often used. So pranayama, breathing exercises are very essential, but some warnings are there, like for asana practice also, which are often overlooked and with which I like to start. And the first thing is, of course, that if you do any serious breathing exercise, except maybe for very slow and breathing, then the stomach should be empty. So we do not do this after taking food. It comes more before food, like asana. And this is very logical, because when we start breathing more deeply, we put a certain pressure on the stomach and on the whole digestive system, which is not very suitable when digestion is taking place, or certainly the first phase of digestion by the stomach is taking place. So we should avoid that. And any really serious pranayamas should also be combined with a good control of the bowel movements, which means that if you are constipated, then pranayama is actually not advisable. Then first, the constipation issue has to be solved, because otherwise the pranayama will bring a lot more toxins into the body. So that is then to be avoided. Another aspect is that most pranayama breathing exercises happen through the nose. Now, first of all, this is because the nose, the opening, is smaller than the opening of the mouth. So when we are breathing in through the nose naturally, we have to breathe more slowly. But that is not the only reason. Another reason is also that here we have two very important nerves that are directly connected to the brain. So when we breathe through the nose, we are affecting a certain cooling on these nerves. And by that, we cool down the brain. So breathing through the nose is much more suitable for meditation than breathing through the mouth, but some exceptions are there, certainly in relaxation. Like, for example, when we are building up tension, for example, towards the belly, and then release it. This releasing happens through the mouth. So the inhale is through the nose, but the exhale is through the mouth, because there, precisely because it is more bigger as an opening, we can really release the energy more fast, and in that way create a certain power to the exercise, which would not be there if we do it through the nose. But so generally speaking, we breathe through the nose, and we do this in a place where fresh air is available. So if you are inside, just make sure a window is a little bit open so that fresh air is available. On the other hand, it's not advisable to do pranayama in places where there's a lot of wind, like on a high mountain or near the seaside. Sometimes there's a lot of wind, so that's not the moment then to do pranayamas, because then the pranayamas, they will just increase vata in your system, the wind element, and the wind element will make you more nervous. And may also create other problems, but the main thing is you don't want to be nervous when you are meditating. So then you do without pranayama. It's quite simple. So then another thing is that slow breathing definitely belongs to meditation and rapid breathing does not. Now, some pranayamas are quite fast, but they are actually more related to other purposes of pranayama than meditation. They usually have more of a cleaning purpose, so they might happen before you start to meditate, but definitely not in the just the moment just before it, because they are more exciting. We want the breath to be slow so that we become calm. That is what is needed. And these, let's say, Ayurvedic pranayamas should also not so much be used lightly in an excessive way. They should be used in moderate way, maybe regularly, to produce a certain effect, but in a moderate way. And any strong use of it should happen under the guidance of a person who really understands Ayurveda and who can really analyze whatever problem you want to solve, and then use pranayama among other means to solve it. But definitely in Ayurveda, pranayama plays a important role and can really be very helpful in any healing process. That actually also we find already in the word pranayama, which is sometimes a bit confusing. Prana means the life force, and Yama is the lord of death. So basically, it means to kill the life force. Now, that's not a very popular interpretation. And there is another interpretation, because we can also see pranayama as prana ayama. And ayama means the opposite of yama. So it means to bring to life the life force or to expand the life force. And this is actually most widely accepted translation, I think, of the word pranayama, to expand the life force. Because even when really we kill the breath, when really we stop the breath, when we hold the breath, which is part of pranayama, then we are also at the same time expanding our energy. I will explain that later. But so there is actually a third interpretation, no? To increase the life force by stopping the breath. And so that is really what the most essential pranayama is about. But as I said, there are so many different kinds. Every tradition also, I think, has developed their own, and maybe, people also develop their own. That's quite possible. They can be used to relax the body. They can be used to deal with certain health problems. They're obviously also very much used in Kundalini yoga, when I used to boost the Kundalini energy or make it rise up, which we will talk about a little bit more also. Pranayamas are involved with many of the special cities, many of the special powers that yogis may have, whether it is to levitate the body or to use the body to melt ice or something like that. Always pranayama is involved. So pranayama is very wide subject, and prana is something very, very essential and important. It is said that we are not born with a certain number of years, that we can live, but we are born with a certain number of breaths. And there the figure of 900 million breaths is given, although there, even with relatively normal breathing, you can live up to a very old age. So I don't know about that figure, but anyhow, that shows how important it is. How fast we breathe determines how long we live. And so slow breathing is also in that way quite advisable to have a long and healthy life. Fast breathing is kind of burning us up. So only in special occasions it is needed. For the rest, we are advised to breathe slowly, because in slow breathing we can also really absorb the prana from the air. Because when we say pranayama is breathing exercises, it seems almost like it is the air that we want, or it is the oxygen that we want. But actually, prana is not the oxygen. Prana is a very subtle kind of energy. So you could say prana is the electricity that is in the air, which can even maybe be measured, or at least the gross effect of it, in the ionization of the air, the electrical charges in the air. We say when an air does not have many negative ions, so basically means it doesn't have a lot of electricity, that it is a dead air, and it makes us more tired. And when we want to rejuvenate ourselves, we go to the seaside or we go to the mountains, and there we find an air very rich in negative ions, which means very rich in electricity or very rich in prana, and that really restores us and gives us a lot of energy. So prana is a very mystical thing, actually. If you look at the word prana, or better prana, then anna means food, and pra means which comes before. So it is like the first food, or the origin of all food. And that makes it also the origin of everything. And so in that way, prana, the essential life force, is prakriti, is nature, is the essential energy out of which everything is made. And in that way, it is also the goddess energy, and it is who we are. And the other side of who we are is then the consciousness, the purush, which is attached to every little bit of prana, which is on the other side of it. It's energized consciousness or conscious energy, which way you want to see it, it doesn't matter. Both elements are there in one. And so prana is really who we are. I mean, when I inhale the prana, then I think, or the prana thinks it's Peter. And then when I exhale the prana and somebody else inhales it, then it becomes Josephine or Santosh or somebody else. So anyway, that's a little philosophy on it. But so it shows how very essential prana is. We can also see that if we look at the let's say quality of the self as it is described as Sat Chit Ananda, where the Chit is the being at the center of it, where the Sat is the consciousness, the knowing, the truth, and where the Ananda is the energy or the bliss associated with the self. So then we also can see that the whole process of meditation, which is supposed to bring us to the self, is a process in which the prana is brought to this very essence of Ananda. So then meditation becomes really something that we do, which relate to our breathing, and then what we do with the energy that we have absorbed, and what kind of vibration we bring it, and making it more and more subtle and more sattvic, and that way, it comes closer and closer to the self. So in a more gross way, the prana through the air that we inhale will also produce vata in the body. This is very important to understand. And so this wind element, which is of course also needed there, should be well controlled, because if there is an excess of it, then we also again produce nervousness. So that is to be avoided, because well, this vata will derange the nerves, and that's why we become more nervous. And so the vata is the element of air, but in the nerves it becomes a gross kind of prana, as again an electric current that is there in the nerves. So we have to be careful there when we do pranayama not to overload the system. That is a very important thing. Now prana then also, as I said, it is everything, so it is also every part of us. So we have the gross physical body, which, like Einstein also said, that matter is energy, consists of gross energy. Then we have our pranic body, the gross energy body, let's say, where we have our feelings, that is so also made out of prana. And then we have the mental body, when we have the thoughts, that is also even more subtle, made out of prana. Then we have the subconscious mind, or the soul, you can say, which travels from one body to the next, which also consists of an even more subtle kind of prana. And then we have at the center of it the self, which, as I said, is pure ananda, purest prana that can be. So these koshas, these layers of out of which we exist, they are all made out of prana. So when we are going into meditation and in deep meditation and want to get rid of these koshas, we draw our attention inside and leave the physical body, leave the pranic body, leave the mental body. Then this is also a matter of withdrawing the prana, also more and more and more inside. No? Not just our consciousness, also the prana. No? So this is a very important thing, prana. Nothing can be done without it. Our senses are entirely dependent on prana. Let's say again on electricity, the nerves who carry the information of the senses towards the brain. We cannot lift an arm without prana. No, this is the energy which we use to move also. And even our desires depend on the quality of the prana that we have. No? When the prana is in a certain type of vibration, then certain types of desires will come. And when the prana comes in other kind of vibration, then other kinds of desires will come. So that is very important to understand how vital prana and so how vital your breathing actually is to how you feel. And remember also this pranic body where your feelings exist extends about the length of your arms on both sides. So this is like a kind of aura, you can say. And so if you do not want to enter the pranic field of another person, you want to guard yourself from their emotions, you keep that kind of distance of 2 arm lengths. No? This is very good now in supermarket with the distancing, the social distancing rules. Then more or less everybody stays at a distance where not only the virus can be, let's say, exchanged, but which is also emotionally a lot more hygienic. So I really can appreciate that actually. Now then a little bit more to say about the use of pranayama in Ayurveda, because it can be easily understood that different pranayama exercises are either heating or cooling. And so if we can use them to heat or cool our system, that allows us to play with the doshas, to play with the elements, to increase the pitta. We can use a heating pranayama, and that will reduce the vata or remove it. So many things are there. So these probably quite popular pranayamas, like the Ujjayi breath and the Kapalabhati and the Bastrika, they are very heating. So these things can be used, but as I said, in moderate way only, if you don't have a specific therapeutic reason to use them. And then the same thing can be said for Chitali and Sitkari, the cooling pranayamas. Yeah, very handy, when you are in a hot bus in India somewhere traveling, and it's so hot, you learn to do like this, and you learn to cool your breath, and in this way you learn to cool your body. These are interesting things, but that's not really what we need in terms of meditation. Unless there is an imbalance, then sure, that's more part of life, I would say. We have to work to rebalance it, and that will definitely also help our meditation. The main effect that we want in terms of breathing in relationship to meditation is on the gunas. The gunas are the principal modes of energy. And so the rajasic energy, which is very active, has a particular kind of breathing. In Rajasic energy, the breath is very fast or relatively fast, and it can be deeper or more shallow, but it's usually not very deep. In Tamasic energy, when we're feeling tamasic, like when we are feeling lazy, a little bit down maybe, then the breath becomes very short, and shallow. So then that is the worst actually kind of energy. Then the uptake of prana is really not good. But actually at that moment we are lacking prana. So to move out of that, to move out of any state which is a little bit depressed, which is a little bit tired, then we need to increase the speed and the depth of our breathing. Like maybe some people, they want to meditate in the morning, but in the early morning they get up, but they are still so very tired. So it's possible, no? So maybe they didn't have a good night's sleep, I don't know. But at that time, to do some stronger breathing, some faster and stronger breathing, nothing excessive, will help them to wake up, will help them to regain their energy. But that's about as far as that goes, because after that, we want the sattvic breath or the sattvic energy, the light energy. And so the sattvic breath is slow, it is never fast. The sattvic breath is always slow and deep, so that there is a good uptake of prana, but the prana is not excessive, is not disturbing us, is on the other hand, is calming us. So this is very, very important. And so the basic pranayama related to meditation is so simple, it doesn't even have a name. It just means slow, deep breathing. So whenever you want to start to meditate, check your breath, slow down your breath, make it a bit deeper, nothing excessive, but make it suitable for what you are about to do. That is very, very logical, and there is one beautiful way also in which this is done, and this is with Soham. Soham, which you could say is not a mantra, but it's almost used like a mantra. So it is repeated, but in relation to the breath. And So means that, and Hum means I am. So when we inhale through the nose, we get this kind of S sound. So we think so. And then when we exhale, we get a kind of sound. And so then we think. So upon the inhale, hum upon the exhale. And always slower and slower and slower. So very long, we can take it inside. And that way bring our breath to a calm state. And any other mantra can be used to the same effect. Like I already explained in the first session with the synchronized mantra breathing. Hamsa is also used, is the other way around. Then Ham is the inhale, Sap is the exhale, and it means the same thing. I am that. That I am or I am that is the same thing. So the nice thing about Soham, I think, is also that it's a beautiful message. That self, that cosmic consciousness, that pure energy, that prana, I am. And so this allows us in the beginning to a little bit contemplate this, that I am. And to contemplate does not mean to think about it. To contemplate means to see this, that I am. To feel this, that I am. Not to think about it, then you are evaluating it. Thinking is always evaluation. So no, take it for real. Take it as the truth and see it and feel it. So that is where you start with some contemplation, just to be aware of the meaning and of the truth of it. and then you forget about it and you just go into the meditation. So Soham is a beautiful thing. And in terms of timing, I would say Soham can be used from the very beginning that you start your meditation practice up to the very end. This is quite unique, actually, that you have an exercise which is so suitable. In the beginning, it's very soothing to calm down the breath and to give your mind some object, so it does not think and it's just going on in Soham with maybe a little contemplation at the beginning. And then, okay, as concentration increases, you continue doing that, and even you can enter in real meditation where this becomes something which is just happening, where this Soham is a natural thing, actually, as your breath becomes slow and deeper, and your mind is engaged fully in this Soham. So this is very, very beautiful, very, very important, very essential kind of practice. And the result comes very fast. That is also so special about pranayamas. The moment that we slow down the breath, immediately we get the result. Immediately the brain, it has to calm down because it's just not getting so much oxygen anymore, or it's just not getting so much prana anymore. Automatically we slow down. So the effect is very fast and medium long lasting, I would say. Like the effect of mantra meditation is more longer lasting, but at least when we do pranayama for a while and then leave it and go into some other kind of meditation, that effect will still be there for quite some time, and it will help us to move deeper into meditation. So then we come to a next practice in pranayama, which is very well known, which is the nadi shodhana, or alternate nostril breathing. So some of you may not know, but we have two nostrils, but we don't breathe through these two nostrils evenly all the time. Actually, if you make a strong inhale through the nose, you will feel one side being more open than the other, where you feel more coolness of the air where it comes in. So normally you should now say, yes, my left nostril is more dominant, or my right nostril is more dominant. But maybe a few of you, they are in a moment of changing from one to the other, so both are more or less equal. That is also possible. But normally during the day, our nostril dominance will change about every 1.5 hours. So 1.5 hours we breathe more on the left side, 1.5 hours we breathe more on the right side. And this has an enormous impact actually on our system because of these nerves which are there in the nose and which are cooled down more on the left side if that nostril is dominant, and more on the right side if that nostril is dominant. And so we will actually in that way decide which side of the brain is more dominant. So if we breathe more through the left nostril, then the feeling nature, the feeling hemisphere will be more dominant. The visual hemisphere will be more dominant. And when we breathe more through the right side, then the thinking nature will be more dominant. The action-oriented nature will be more dominant. And we will not be so much visualized or visually inclined, let's say, much more working with words, thinking. No? So that changes, and actually a lot of our inner dialogue, a lot of the conversation that we have inside our mind, a lot of our thinking basically is, I'm feeling this, but I'm thinking that. Yes, but I'm feeling this. Yeah, but yeah, you can also think that. So this is actually where we are talking so much about. And so when we can bring this more in a balance, then we find less reason to think. And that's very helpful to become more calm. And so it is very helpful in meditation. So what actually happens when we get both nostrils to breathe evenly is that three main nadis, three main energy channels are affected. The solar channel and the lunar channel, which is related to left and right, or right and left actually, they are affected. And when we bring them in a balance, then automatically the energy starts flowing in the central channel of Sushumna. So that here then in our third eye, we get a sort of centering effect that is very, very useful in concentration. So this is something to be done, definitely. Not few times, I would say you need to do it some minutes or 5 minutes to get some real effect of it. But okay, what's 5 minutes, huh? And so to do this, you use this, this mudra. So this means that alternate muscle breathing means you go in from one side and out on the other side and back. And you start on the left, so you block with your thumb of your right hand, your right nostril. Breathe in through the left, and then use this finger, the ring finger, to close the left nostril and breathe out from the right. Then again, you breathe in from the right, and then you breathe out from the left. And so this continuously ongoing, this kind of practice, you will feel it, you have to experience these things, that will be worth much more than whatever I can say about it. When you do this, then you feel, yes, there is a calmness coming, there is a balance coming, there is a kind of different kind of energy coming. So this is very good to do. But since you need your fingers to close your nostrils, this cannot be seen as part of dharana, of real concentration exercise, because there the attention should be maximally moved inside, and this is so much, technical outside. So this belongs really to the part of relaxation, to the preparation part that you are using to assure that concentration and meditation happen in a good way. So this is a preparation for that. And I may already have mentioned it, but at sunrise, this even breathing through the two nostrils happens automatically. So there we have a very nice opportunity to meditate, because without doing any effort, we get the same effect. And then in samadhi, this also happens naturally. In deep meditation is then not something that we can do, but it just naturally happens that the energy moves into sushumna, and both nostrils, if you are still breathing, are breathing quite evenly. So maybe I can also say that there is also a yoga called Swar Yoga, which does a lot more still with these nostrils, but that will be in another class. I think that I might go into more detail about that. Visualization of prana is a powerful way to clean our energy channels, to clean the nadis. Because actually when we say nadi shodhana is alternate breathing, this is not really true, because there are many types of nadi shodhana, and alternate nostril breathing is maybe the best known. But nadi shodhana means cleaning of the nadis. And visualization definitely is often used to that purpose. So visualization basically means that we are imagining something to happen. It's not that you have to see it happening. Some people see things happening all the time, but It's not so easy for everybody, so it's not the point. You just have to try to visualize it, try to imagine it, and that is enough, no? Because your energy will anyhow increase by putting your attention there. And the visualization will actually use a kind of energy which is called tejas, which is like the fiery form of prana, I could say. And that will bring also more energy and will loosen more energy and will, allow you to move energy through certain channels. So visualization is a fantastic tool. Or you can visualize prana or energy as light, maybe with some sparks in it, whatever, you fancy. It does not really matter, but so you visualize it as a light. And by doing this, you really create a flow of energy. And so this seeing of energy or imagining of energy flowing is also a feeling of energy flowing. And so this should be coming together, where you are focusing on, let's say, for example, the heart chakra, and on the energy going in and out of the heart chakra, and visualizing this energy to go in and out. But then you also start feeling this energy coming and going, following your breathing. And so this is what visualization is. It's not just seeing, it's also feeling. It's important to understand. So with that, we can open many channels, and actually we are supposed to have 72,000 nadis in the body, so it's hard to like go through every one of them, and it's also not needed. Basically, when we strengthen the flow of energy through the main gates that are there in our body, then automatically we are also flooding, let's say, the whole system and all the nadis, which does not mean we can so easily unblock every one of them, but at least for starters, that's like what we are aiming at. And so these gates are many, and in the home resources for this session, you will find a audio file which guides you through such a visualization, where I have chosen the main gates as objects of this meditation. And these are the navel chakra, the heart chakra, the third eye chakra, of course, and then which also are the senses, meaning your whole body, in the sense of the skin being your sense of touch, and then also the ears, the eyes, the mouth, the nose. So there, everything we can work with, and you will see this kind of pranic bathing, you could call it, is really quite delightful. It makes you feel very light and filled with energy without being nervous. So that's really what we are aiming at, right? So it is a very strong but very sattvic feeling that is produced there. So I'm not going to do this now, or guide you through it. It's much easier, I feel, to do these guided exercises separately when you are sitting properly and you have the time for it and the space for it, and where you can use it using the audio file that you find on the website. So the lilayoga.org website, if you go to the live sessions there with session 3, you find these home resources. So maybe I can also indicate that the same kind of visualization techniques can also be used to work with the 5 pranas, as they are called, of which one is the pure prana, like as we inhale it, but of which the 4 others are different varieties of prana that occur in our body and have different purposes in our body, like elimination, like circulation, and things like that. So these 5 can also be worked with. But again, that is more a Ayurvedic approach to pranayama. Sure, some things can be done there also that improve your ability to concentrate and improve your ability to meditate. But that would have led us a little bit far now to go into all that, because the five pranas are already studied in themselves. You could write a whole book. I mean, there are books about it. So anyway, but just mentioning it. And as for the timing of such visualization, here this also definitely is something which belongs before dharana, before concentration, because it is a little bit exciting anyhow. So once we go into concentration, then we want to keep the breath as slow as possible. While with visualization, breath needs to have a medium kind of speed. It should not be something very, very, very slow. Otherwise, it becomes very, very difficult to do it. So I would say the visualization is to be done before concentration exercises. And I can also add to it that massage on these different points is also something which can greatly help this process of opening the energy channels, unblocking the energy channels, and letting the energy move more freely inside of you, which will also make your emotions more stable. A lot of emotional distress is actually caused by energy getting blocked somewhere. And that so much relates to your breathing. So visualization of prana is great. If you have never done it before, I would suggest to spend some time on it every day for at least some time. The typical 40 days maybe could be a good idea. Then afterwards, I would say this is more a matter of maintenance. So it could be part of your daily meditation practice, but then maybe quite short way. No? The audio file I made is only 5-6 minutes, so it's actually there, quite short, but still we all run out of time so easily. So it's up to you whether you like or not also. So, and then we come to maybe the most essential part of pranayama, and that is breath retention. When we start not only breathing slowly, but we start literally to stop the breath, to hold the breath. And the first moment where we can hold it is definitely after the inhale, and not so much after the exhale. It is also possible after the exhale. But if we do this too long, then this will give a strong increase in vata in the body. And this increase in vata in the body will lead to instability, could even create some mental problems. So I don't advise it, except maybe for a short while. But so the holding of the breath after inhaling is the best way to go, and is for the system quite easy to manage, and will still have the main effect that we are after. And this main effect can be summarized by saying, stop breath and mind will stop. And this is really literally what you feel happening in yourself. You inhale, you hold the breath, and it just becomes difficult to think. You just try this. No? Maybe you should take 1 minute at least for you to experience that now. No? I'm not saying you can't think while holding the breath, but it's hard. So, unbelievable, fantastic tool. Stop breath and mind will stop. Manish Johari, I think this is the one thing he told us the most. Like he would repeat this, like we became tired of it. But it also really causes to be very attentive to it. and try to really slow down our breath and hold our breath a lot. And so definitely that helps us. And if you have this habit to now and then hold your breath, just as a pastime also, no? Then you become comfortable with it, easy with it. And that already gives you such a great tool, because then you have a real panic button, like, which you can push any moment. So whenever the energy becomes too much, whenever you're becoming restless, whenever some problem is there, some negative emotion is there which you don't want, you just hold the breath. Automatically this thing has to stop. Instant peace you get by holding the breath. Instant peace. So, okay, you can't keep holding it forever, so you need to breathe out and then again continue life, but it will be in a different way. Your emotion will be different, your energy will be different. And if it's not yet different enough, then hold it, hold the breath for a while longer. So a great tool it is, and it is the most essential part of pranayama, and that we can also see with Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras. He writes a few lines about pranayama, and he starts actually by telling a joke. I feel it's a joke. He says pranayama means that we stop breathing after inhaling and after exhaling and at any other time. Which is, of course, a fun way to say, pranayama means to stop breathing. Because any other time, that's then the inhale and the exhale, and before and after, so yeah, it just stops. So, but then in the second line, he becomes a little bit more real, let's say, and then he says, well, to practice pranayama means that slowly, your breath becomes more slow and more subtle. So yes, sure, that is where you want to go, and stopping breath is part of that. But this is a process. This is something we have to learn. Then anyhow, in the third line, he again returns to it. He says the ultimate pranayama is to go beyond breath. Not just stop it. You go beyond. Forget about it. Kill the breath. Pranayama. Then we're really talking about that part. And he also explains why. He says, doing this practice of holding the breath will dissolve that which covers your light. And this is a very easy to understand reference to the koshas, which can be literally translated as the sheets, like certain materials which cover the light of the self. Our different bodies, our different aspects of our being, which are relatively gross and thick, and they cover the light of the self. So making these sheets transparent, letting the light shine through, is something which happens through pranayama and through holding the breath. So very important also in the later phases of deep meditation, that the breath also there, it really comes to a hold, and not just for seconds or minutes. It really stops. And I'm not yet that far evolved, but my first teacher, Hayes Johari, he could really do that. He could really say, okay, I'm going to sit, give me 10 minutes or something, and then try to see if I still have a breath. And so then you use a mirror, like you do when an accident has happened, to see if somebody is breathing. You put a mirror under the nose and you see if there's any vapor traces coming on the mirror. So yeah, we did it a lot with him. Nothing came. And also the heartbeat, actually, it goes in deep meditation. So that's what he is talking about. But he also then finishes it off by saying pranayama is very helpful in concentration. So that holding of the breath definitely makes it possible to bring a distracted mind which many of us have, to a point where it can really concentrate. So if you feel that meditation is frustrating, it's hard to concentrate on anything without having all these thoughts, then pranayama is the way to go. And holding the breath is the way to go. And slowly, slowly, you will get there and you will get more concentrated. And what is also very important when we work with holding the breath is that we also need a long exhale in combination with any kind of holding of the breath. It should be at least half as long to be, good. And why is that? Because when we hold the breath, then we have all this air here, and the body will absorb the prana. But we don't want this prana to stay prana, because then it will maybe increase the vata. We want this prana to be converted, and that happens with the long exhale. If there is a long exhale, then the body, it has the time to convert it, and it will convert it first to tejas, this fiery kind of prana that I was talking about, which is very important for our vitality and very important also for our intellect, for our spinal fluid, for our seeing, for our intuition. So tejas is a very important thing. And then if there is even more time, then tejas is also converted to ojas, which is a more oily form, you could say, of prana, but still an energy, not matter, but more thick even, and where prana is stored. And to have a lot of ojas in the body, to have a lot of stored prana in the body, definitely is extremely healthy, because it gives endurance, it gives resistance, it gives all kinds of health benefits. And it is also very essential when in deep meditation, breath really stops and the intake of prana stops, because then the body can use the ojas to produce the prana needed to keep the system alive. So this is a little bit of yogic biochemistry or electrochemistry, which is there. And so always remember, when you do retention of breath, you should have enough margin to still have a long exhale, and not hold as long as you can and then have to exhale very fast so you can have a fast inhale. No, that's not the way to go. Then you are overdoing it, and you need just a little more time to work on it and get the retention time longer. Always this long exhale should be there. And this kind of practice, this increase of ojas in the system, is often also very helpful for any person who is having chronic fatigue or depression or general weakness. So this is again more Ayurvedic part of it, but so that sort of practice is definitely advisable when you have these kind of symptoms. So the time to do these retention exercises, well, you can do it certainly in the relaxation phase, because it will definitely help you to calm down, but it can be taken also into the real concentration phase, because it will help the concentration tremendously. And there are systems then where we are counting it. I'll explain a little bit more, and really trying to get it precise. They are maybe more for the beginning of a concentration exercise. And there are then also other ways to do it, where we don't count so much, but where we have a feeling of how long should be the inhale, how long should be the retention time, and how long should be the exhale, and how long maybe even also we hold the breath after the exhale if we want. But so that then becomes more an intuitive thing, a natural thing, a thing we have learned first by counting maybe, but then naturally we don't need to count so much anymore. So it becomes less mental, and we are more becoming suited to go from concentration into real meditation. Because in real meditation, all these mental things like counting are not possible. So that has to go there, but still retention of breaths can be there. When this retention of breath becomes something natural, both in life, at any moment or in your meditation practice. And the more you are used to it, the more you're just going to do it. And it's going to be very, very helpful to make you meditate more. And so this counting method I was talking about is just to learn it. There are some differences of opinion there, but I would say most texts and teachers, they advise people to go to the so-called 1-4-2 sequence, which means 1 count for the inhale, 4 counts for the holding of the breath, and 2 counts for the exhale. But so let's say if you have a health issue and you want to use it in this way, then make the exhale even longer. Then maybe have a 1-4-4, with 4 counts also for the exhale. And then the counts can be real counting, but since that's pretty boring, you can also count like mantras. That's actually how it is most often used. Even with simple mantras like Om Namah Shivaya, we can say, okay, 1 Om Namah Shivaya inhale, 4 Om Namah Shivaya is holding the breath, and then 2 Om Namah Shivaya is exhale. And since that is then quite easy to do for most people, then we can double everything. And then we have 2 Om Namah Shivayas inhale, and we have 8 Om Namah Shivayas holding the breath, and we have 4 Om Namah Shivayas for the exhale. So with this we can work, and then with longer mantras it becomes a little bit more complicated. Actually, there also in the home exercises, I've created an example for Gayatri Mantra, how you can do this. And if you understand how this is then done, because there you have to sometimes a little bit cut the mantras, into parts, then you can do it with any other mantra, with your own mantra. However long it is, you find some way so that you come to this 1-4-2 sequence. But it does not necessarily mean that you have to start with 1-4-2. You could also just start with 1-1-1, like 1 mantra inhale, 1 mantra holding, 1 mantra exhale. If the holding is a bit like frightening for some people, like they need to really get used to it, and then move to 1-2-2 maybe, and 1-3-2 and 1-4-2. This way you build it up slowly. It should never lead to any gasping for air, because any gasping for air will in just 1 second like undo 10 minutes of work. So that should always be avoided. This is for your system, like extreme wake-up call. So you don't want that. You want to slowly move into calmness and stay there. So don't go too fast when you build this up. It's not an ego game, and slowly you will adapt to it, and get used to it. And one little trick maybe is also, don't think that you have to fill your breast cavity to the maximum, because that is very hard to hold for a long time, just like physically. So you don't need to fill your lungs till they're bursting so that you have more time to not breathe. No, you just breathe in deeply, but more deeply towards the bottom, towards downwards, and then okay, you fill the breath, but not too much, so it doesn't become stressed. So, and definitely breath retention can also be combined with alternate nostril breathing, where you breathe in through one nostril, hold the breath, and then breathe out to the other, and vice versa, like I explained, but just with holding the breath. Now, one thing which relates to this breath retention are the bandhas, the locks. For people who have no idea what this means, like, for example, by bringing the anus inward, we can lock first chakra level. By bringing the navel totally as far as possibly, to the spine, we can take a second lock. By closing here, the pipe, what do you call it, the breathing pipe, here comes this. So these techniques are often used in combination with pranayama, but I like to warn about it. It should be done under proper guidance because this is not a light exercise. This is part of Kundalini Yoga, where we are bringing a lot of prana in the body, mixing it with apana, and since both have a different charge, this kind of strong energy, like a combustion, you could say, is taking place. And then the strongest energy should be used then to waken the snake, to push the Kundalini energy upwards from first chakra into the central channel of the spine. So this is a very, very special technique, and I know quite a lot about it because Harish Johari was very proficient in it. He also wrote this book called Chakras, which is about Kundalini Yoga, and which was one of the first books ever to appear, at least in the West, on this subject. So many people came to him and wanted to learn Kundalini Yoga. And he was very happy if people were asking, like, wow, yeah, you want to learn, very good. And but then he'd always say, okay, if you want to learn, you have to come to India, you have to come to my house, then I can teach you. And then people would ask, how long should I come? And then he would say, yeah, well, minimum 3 years, I would say. Yeah, one year for purification, second year for learning certain basic things about pranayama, and then a third year for actually starting the Kundalini practice. So some people came, but very few. And he was very right to put it like that, because it is a very forceful method and a very powerful method. But the fact that it is forceful also means that you have to be careful. And carefully means, most of all, that you have to be very pure. If impurities are in the way and we start forcing energy through it, then some damage can happen to the nadis. And this is well known, and I have treated people like that who had mental instability, which was clearly related to some Kundalini exercises they had done without sufficient guidance. So I'm not saying it should not be done. No, fantastic. But be prepared to enter something which is very, very powerful, very, very precise. And, you cannot just do it as a hobby, It's like something you have to very much concentrate on. So that is something which is not part of what I want to teach here. So to sum up, what can you do in terms of breathing related to your meditation? This is actually quite simply to explain. In the phase of relaxation, you take care to slow down the breath. In as far as you feel you can need it, you can use alternate nostril breathing, and you can use prana visualization, maybe a little bit, maybe more, it depends on you. And then as you enter the phase of concentration, more and more the slow breathing also starts holding retention. And as I said, then maybe first in a counting, but later the counting should be forgotten, and it should become quite natural to stop breathing after the inhale, and maybe also a little bit after the exhale. With the stopping of breath after the exhale, usually we say, okay, go 2A, 1, 4, 4, 2. So means 1 inhale, 4 counts holding the breath, 4 counts exhaling, and then 2 counts holding the breath after the exhale. So that is what we can aim at. And anything more is certainly possible, but only under good guidance. Somebody who knows what they are doing. And I also like to repeat, so hum practice goes from the very beginning to the very end, very interesting thing to do, including also natural retention, where we do so, and then hold, and keep silent also inside. Very beautiful practice it is. So, inhale. silence on the holding of the breath, hum on the inhale, exhale. And so on the inhale, holding the silence, holding pure being, holding everything, and then hum. So sometimes meditation is going to be very simple, and this is one of them, where, you just need this one thing, and you can go to the very end. So then this is more or less what I want to explain about pranayama today. I don't know how long I've been talking. Okay, 1 hour, 15 minutes. That's more or less as it should be. So then we have still something to say about the exercises, the home exercises for this week, for which you find a description on the website under the live session number 3. So there the beginning is same as before. Start facing east, or definitely not south. Put the vase, put some light, put some incense, these things. Put your personal intention there. And then I would suggest that for only 5 minutes you perform the sitting statue pose meditation or exercise that we did last week. No, but the one I've put online, the audio file, it takes more than 15 minutes. That's really too long now. So just remember the essence of it and bring it down to 3 minutes, 5 minutes, something like that, in your own way. So maybe for once you have to listen to it and maybe also do it, but take some notes, or like find your own way, so that you can really do this in proper way, sit really in good way, and be totally relaxed in it, but not need so much time to do that. And then I suggest for another 5 minutes to do the prana visualization techniques that you find in the audio file of this session. Audio file called prana visualization exercise, so that you can clean the main energy channels. And as I said, if you have not done that before, maybe for a while you could make a habit of it. It's actually also something that does not require you to sit in meditation. You can do this sitting anywhere, during any time. You can do this, and in that way, clean your energy channels. And so then for the second half of what I here look at as being half hour, if you have more time, you spend more time on it. So the second half, I'm leaving you 2 options. Either using Soham or using the mantra which you already have chosen before. So 2 methods which are similar but not same, because, okay, there's a bit of a difference. So with Soham, you start by just doing Soham with the inhale and the exhale. Then you add some alternate nostril breathing to that. That can also be perfectly combined with Soham. This may be also the time to a little bit reflect, contemplate on this, that I am. Do this for at least like 8 rounds or a bit more if you like. And then you stop the alternate breathing, you continue the Soham, but you start integrating some breath retention after the inhale, some silence, as I said, after the inhale, and then hum on the exhale. So no need to count anything there. Just make sure that the inhale is relatively short, and that the holding and the exhale are relatively long and more or less same length, depending. It doesn't have to be exact. So that is when using Soham. And then when using your own mantra, you start with the exercise we did before to synchronize the mantra with breath, like 1 mantra is 1 breath, or 2 mantras is 1 breath, or something. Then start doing with the same exercise this Nadi Shodhana, this alternate nostril breathing, and then move away from alternate nostril breathing toward breath retention And there you can use the mantra for counting and trying to get to this 1-4-2 sequence, as I explained before. You can also find a PDF on that subject, the example of Gayatri mantra attached to session 3. And then you end the exercise as always by being still for a moment, by not trying anything for the moment, just as long as it pleases you. Always after meditation, you have to do this because it's the best possible time to do it. And this is also so essential that you're able to do this. And slowly, you will need much less effort to be able to do this in a good way. So don't forget for this exercises of last week to put your likes there and maybe your thumbs down also, for those things which you liked or those which you don't like, so that afterwards you have all this information about your own experience and more easily you can there come up with a sequence that really suits you, really fits you perfectly. So thanks for being there, everybody. Thanks also for the donations I have received. I've also seen more sharing of the class on YouTube. So thanks for that also, and more definitely welcome. And right, okay, then now I think I have a look at if there's any questions. Okay, people like what I said about spreading this information through the internet. Then Maria says, I find it difficult to synchronize the breath and mantra. Is this normal? I have to concentrate very hard. Yeah, well, if you're not used to it, everything takes some time. No? Remember how difficult it was the first time you drove a bicycle or a car, and how easy it is now. So this is really the same thing. It seems like it should be very simple, but sometimes it's not. So just, concentrate, just exercise. Annie is a little bit complaining about the audio. And some other people also are complaining about the audio. I hope that solved itself. Microphone sound level slightly too loud. I have to look into it. I mean, this is actually YouTube is in charge of the microphone, So I'm not even so able to change this. But let me check it out for next session. I hope it wasn't too bad. But of course, if my sound level is too high, maybe you can lower your own volume. But of course, if there's a bad noise, then okay. I hope. Okay, then Maria is asking, how do we avoid not overloading with pranayama, and how to know if we are already overloaded? So that is actually quite simple. We will never overload with pranayama when we are using slow breathing. Overloading with prana only happens with fast breathing. So that is the main thing. And you can actually also feel it in yourself. Like sometimes, I remember one time somebody came just out of a yoga class and was very enthusiastic, and he said, "Oh, we did so good pranayama. I'm feeling so high, man." And then I thought, okay, yeah, that's not really the idea. So that's it. If you start feeling high, like dizzy in your head, that's really where you're not doing the right thing. So then Jiku asks, sounds like pranayama may increase what I've done incorrectly. Are there any pranayama exercises that can reduce it? So I think apart from pranayama exercises, what will reduce it is grounding. Grounding, and of course then in pranayama slow breathing. But grounding means to be in the body, the exercise we talked about last week, to be really in the body, to have a good connection to the earth. These are the main things, and also your food is going to be very important to ground the energy. Because if the quality of the food is not there, then if we do pranayama, then it will produce a lot of vata. But pranayama, the slow kind, is not vata increasing. No? On the contrary, it is vata reducing. So, like if you want to do a food fast, which includes eating a lot of raw food, like some people are doing, then okay, that can be very purifying, but it can also produce a lot of vata. Then at that time, these slow pranayamas are very much advised, so that you don't have too much vata. So I think I don't see any more questions. All right. Thank you everybody for being there. Namaste and Ram Ram. And stay peaceful. I see something more coming. Jiko asks, are the pranayama exercises you talked about, what Master Johari would have you do during the first year for purification? Yes, some pranayamas are there also for purification, but purification also means, for example, a lot of vomiting. They are the so-called karmas. You can look this up on the internet. You can even see people do it. It's quite disgusting sometimes, but also quite, let's say, like miraculous how they do it, because you also have to, for example, learn to eat a cloth, a piece of cloth, which is, I don't remember exactly, but it's very long, like cotton cloth, and you have to totally take it into your stomach so that it cleans it out, and then you have to put it out again. I mean, things like that. It's really quite specialized stuff. So first we should do, for example, just 10 minutes and not more. Then after a while, do 15 minutes and so on. No, Maria, as I said, when you do the slow pranayamas, you don't have to worry about vata or too much prana. Luis Fernando is asking, do you know how much time would be healthy to stop the breathing out? Well, I don't want to say it really, because my teacher always said, little bit okay, but more you have to ask me. I never came to that point actually, where I really wanted to do more, and so I never asked him. So I never really got that guidance. I'm sorry. I know in some traditions it is done. So I think if you are doing it within a tradition like that, that you can trust, then do it. I can't say how long, but if you're doing these things on your own, like many people, then just be careful there. Don't do it so much. It won't also bring you so much unless it is done in a really, really proper way. For the rest, just to increasing your holding the breath after the inhale, to bring your total breath, if you want, to a length of 2 minutes. That's the job Hari Chahari one time he gave me, to have one inhale, one holding of the breath, and one exhale in 2 minutes. That's already a very, very nice objective which you can reach, and for which you don't need to hold the breath after the exhale. And it is something everybody can learn. Don't go too fast, don't push it too fast, don't expect it to be there after 1 month. But I had a year to do that, and it was quite easy to do it in a year. I could have done it faster also. But so that is the kind of thing to work on, and then you really are a master of your breath, and it will help you very much in your life and your meditation. So right now I think we have come to the end of the questions. Again, thank you. Namaste. Have a nice day. And what a nice night wherever you are. And see you next week for the next session. Well, thank you.